Hi there, Mouseketeers. Welcome to the Disneyland Beat, where our toes tap to a Disneyland drum.
And we always whistle while we work.
Well, we couldn't get into Disneyland last week.
But we decided to drive the I-5 to one of the most amazing outdoor storybook theme parks in the country.
The Enchanted Forest in Turner, Oregon.
A delightful and unique family park that opened in 1971.
You are not going to want to miss this one. Come on and join us.
Please like, subscribe, and stick around.
The Enchanted Forest is a labor of love created by one man and his family.
Skilled as an artisan draftsman, the park founder, Roger Tofte, conceived of and built the original incarnation of this fantastic 20-acre park.
It took him 7 years to get it open, and as he said, he built it a sack of concrete at a time.
And he is still the creative force behind the park, designing the more modern attractions in the park even today.
Much like Walt Disney, Roger Tofte built the park because he wanted somewhere for families in Northern Oregon to go where they could recreate together.
Much like Walt, he was subject to ridicule by locals for the folly on the hill that he was creating.
And like Walt, he had to go from bank to bank to get the final funding he needed to actually open the park, finally finding one willing to take a chance on him.
With his family, he conceived, designed, engineered, and built the amazing park. And he and his family can still be found in the park today.
When looking at the park from Google Maps, it's almost impossible to see any attractions or paths because the entire park is inside a thick tree canopy with a magical feeling forest.
Which really made the park experience magical on the hot and sunny day that we visited.
We did want to talk briefly about how the park is dealing with COVID-19 precautions.
The park had mask requirements for kids 5 and up and had social distancing markers throughout the park.
We had our temperature checked upon entrance, and there were lots of hand sanitizer stations throughout the park. Although, one note here, it would have been nice if these were easier to operate with one or no hands.
But we brought our own and used it liberally. They did have a number of attractions that were closed, mostly high-touch play areas.
Overall, we felt pretty comfortable in the park. It helped that literally the entire park, with the exception of 2 show buildings, is outside.
The employees are called team members, and everyone we interacted with were all professional, accommodating, and nice. And they were sanitizing ride vehicles between every ride, which was just great.
Unfortunately, there was a small handful of people who were not keeping their masks on all the time or respecting the 6-foot distancing, and we did not witness the staff correcting anybody.
We did not stick around the theater show long for that very reason.
However, we happened to be in some correspondence with the management, and they did tell us in an email that they were going to take additional steps to enforce mask usage at the theater show.
Luckily, crowds were very low, and social distancing was pretty easy to achieve.
And let's talk about the park. What an amazing park.
The park, in some ways, feels like Disneyland did back in 1955.
You pay a low cost to enter the park and then have to pay for ride tickets for the attractions.
Most of the park is based on stories, with charming dioramas, interactive play areas, and lots of delightful peek-ins.
With only a handful of attractions that are very well thought out and impeccably themed.
The park is split up roughly into 4 sections, and the first and oldest section of the park is the Storybook Village, which is a meandering trail going up the hill past settings of children's stories.
The Enchanted Forest has a Sleeping Beauty's castle to start the trail.
It tells the tales of Hansel and Gretel and Humpty Dumpty,
Alice in Wonderland, and the 3 Little Pigs.
They say that the giant pumpkin of Peter Pumpkin Eater is the first thing that Roger Tofte built.
There is a maze to go through, and although it was closed to maintain social distancing, you can usually crawl through the Alice in Wonderland's rabbit hole.
The section that really impressed us, though, was the large Snow White area.
Starting with the House of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
Who have a completely new set of names, by the way, as the original versions never really named them.
You tour the very long dwarves' mines.
Then you enter the scary castle of the witch, and you get to explore her dungeon before sliding back down to the path.
The next section that Roger Tofte constructed is Tofteville, a rootin' western town in the spirit of Calico at Knott's Berry Farm.
They have funny tombstones and lots of comic props.
And the whole place is full of delightful peek-ins with fun scenes.
There's a small museum to the town, which is built almost like a tilt house with everything going at odd angles.
And although it was closed because of the pandemic, they have a remote-controlled boat dock just like the Disneyland Hotel used to.
And a really nice-looking shooting gallery. We wish we could have done that.
One of the park's 2 gift shops was found in Tofteville, and we thought both gift shops were really nice, offering great theming and presenting a really nice selection of souvenirs.
And when we were there, the resident park band, Possibly Irish, was playing.
They are a rotating band of musicians who are led by a member of the Tofte family, Susan Vaslev, who has written and recorded much of the music heard throughout the park.
And considering every attraction, Pekin and Show has its own soundtrack, it's really an impressive collection of work. And the band is fantastic.
The next section of the park on the top of the hill houses pretty much all of the rides. The area has light theming to work with each of the major attractions at the park.
The first attraction once out of the western town is the Haunted House. It lacks the witty charm and impressive effects of something like the Haunted Mansion.
But it does not disappoint nonetheless. It's long enough and dark enough and adult enough to be a little unsettling.
But the exterior of the house is stunning, absolutely terrifying, a true haunted house.
After the haunted house, there's a small section of the park with some fairly basic flat rides.
There's a small carousel with lots of different animals that was added recently in 2017.
And a tiny train that goes around some miniatures made by Roger Tofte.
As well as a frog hopper, mini Ferris wheel, and bumper boats and cars.
Next came a small outdoor theater.
They were showing a production of Cinderella that was really fun.
But as we mentioned before, we did not stick around too long at this one, and we'll just look forward to seeing this on our next visit.
The next section of the park housed what we consider to be the best attractions they had,
with each mini area themed to that attraction.
There are only 3, 4 if you include the haunted house, but each one is epic. They're all unique, one-of-a-kind rides with great backstories and cool graphics.
They have fans, and you can get unique merch for each of them. I had to get a shirt for the Ice Mountain bobsleds.
Yes, if you are missing the Matterhorn, you can come ride the Ice Mountain bobsleds.
It's a fantastic Swiss-themed ride through an unnamed icy peak, complete with a Yeti inside the caves.
The ride train is unique with enclosed cars and no restraints.
It's definitely a mild family coaster, but it is so unique and fun.
There's some quick drops and helixes, not so much airtime, but you pass through some really small openings.
The banking of the turns changes, and sometimes you get a lateral turn, and other times the cars turn sideways.
We rode it twice and are now huge fans. It's a true bucket list coaster, very unique.
They also have a fantastic log flume with a 40-foot drop, the Big Timber Mountain Company.
Again, the ride is one of a kind. We've never ridden anything quite like it.
After a long lift up the hillside, we were dropped off in a flume inside a well-themed sawmill.
The sawmill had some animatronic loggers in there cutting up some wood, and after you leave that nice building, we are taken on a lovely boat ride around the woods before you get to a big dip.
Then the car went into a tracked roller coaster section going down a large dip.
And then you drop back into the flume again and go down the final huge drop.
With a huge splash. It was a lot of fun.
The last major attraction in the park was another huge surprise.
It turns out that this small park was the home of the first trackless ride vehicle used in North America.
The Challenge of MONDOR, the park's only dark ride, is an interactive shooter that fits perfectly into the theming of the park.
Centering on finding the wizard Mondor and helping him on his medieval quest.
The theming for the ride was pretty cool, and the early trackless vehicles move around the track, spinning and touring rooms, taking full advantage of the format.
And while the animatronics were more along the lines of what you might find at Disney in 1955, they were still very cool.
Overall, the ride is really fascinating, and they could have taken the money that they spent on this and bought a bunch of little kiddie flat rides and filled up their park, but they didn't. They built this super cool flat ride that's one of a kind and unique and first of its kind, so it's quite the achievement.
Even the queue was really well themed as the Wizard's Cave.
The last section of the park is the Old English Village.
A section of Tudor row houses with characters poking their heads out of windows and talking to each other from across the street.
There were playground areas, and every window had something really cool to look at, a bunch of peekins.
One favorite room had an animatronic show to the nursery rhyme, Sing a Song of Sixpence, in which a bunch of blackbirds on and inside a pie put on a concert.
And not expecting more, we stepped into the Jolly Roger Inn for just a moment to see what was inside.
And there was some great music and a fountain show.
It's not quite World of Color, but you can see all the complex PVC rigs that were made step by step by the family in order to create the show.
And it's really impressive, all designed to original music.
As we left the English Village and headed to the park exit, we noticed the other gift shop, themed to Geppetto's workshop, with lots of maquettes and marionettes around the shop.
And a large food and picnic area with individual themed picnic table booths.
They were really charming. I don't know, it felt like I was eating at Smurf Village or something. It was really cool. And the park usually does have several eateries to offer, but with the pandemic, they were mostly closed, so we'll have to learn about those next time.
As we made our way back out to the parking lot, we took it all in.
The park is a labor of love, a love that is still vibrant and alive today. You can feel it when you're there.
The family still loves and cares for the park, and I have never been to a place like this where everything has been so beautifully maintained.
Many of the attractions are 50 years old, homemade too, but everything looked fantastic. No crumbling cement or faded paint, everything was in great shape.
It's a true theme park, and although it has a few kiddie rides, it's no carnival.
We love the history and the friendly feeling of the park.
It's truly a hidden gem of the United States.
Well, Mouseketeers, that's it for today.
We hope you enjoyed this park review of the Enchanted Forest.
And we can't wait until we can be together again in Disneyland.
We'll see you real soon, Mouseketeers.
See you real soon.